Konnichiwa friends, my name is Asman Samasi and today we are going to see practice assignment and graded assignment for week 1 of the 2025 September term. Okay, so in this video my goal is to help you understand the full course and each and every concept that is needed to solve our week 1 of our practice assignment and our graded assignment. Okay, so before you might having doubts and issues in practice assignment and GA, or you may not understand some concept to solve assignment, but after this video my promise is to understand your whole concept to solve GA and PA and also revise the full concept. Okay, so I will be greatly using my week 1 and week 1 part A and part B, which I done for the lecture here for our IITM DL GenAI course, which you could also find in my YouTube channel. Okay, the whole playlist, and you could find the PDF in each of the below part. So let's get started. The first question we get here is that if you remove all activation function from a deep neural network but keep multiply fully connected reals, okay, what will happen? Here the main concept you need to know is that without activation function, deep learning end up into a single mathematical function. Okay, like here ReLU, sigmoid, tan H basically add non-linearity and is important for neural network to learn complex problem. Okay, especially our XOR problem. So basically in our week 1 part B, I have told here that the activation function is what makes and deep learning deep. Okay, so if without any activation function we work, then what we got is a mathematical function. Okay, but if you are adding an activation function, we could basically learn any complex problem like our curves, edges, faces, speech, language, etc. Okay, so it is what making deep learning deep here. Okay, so here first is that it still work as an universal approximator. Okay, universal approximator means that it could approximate anything. Okay, like our XOR problem, the linear separable data set, etc. Okay, but it can't without an activation function. Okay, so here universal approximation requires non-linearity. A pure linear model cannot approximate non-linear function. Okay, so our first option will be wrong. Then second option, it becomes equivalent to logistic regression. So that's not the case. Okay, it is saying is that it will learn faster because no non-linearity is present. Okay, first here two things is mentioned, you must understand. Okay, here it is saying that it will learn faster. Okay, if it was said that it will become fast, it is true, but the learning will not be there in general. Okay, so here the learn faster, here the basically the learn is basically the ML can't learn. Okay, I mean the deep learning model can't learn here. Okay, that thing you must remember. Now see which is here said that it reduced to a single linear transformation losing expressive power. This one will be true for our first question. Okay, because it directly aligns with the concept we learn here. Okay, now second thing is that we were asked to consider the sigmoid activation function and tell which are true and which are false. First, this sigmoid activation function formula is 1 by 1 plus e to the power minus x, and the value ranges from 0 to 1. Okay, and it looks like this. Here the its output always lie between 0 and 1. Okay, so this one is correct as it is by the definition. Then second, it is saying that it suffers from vanishing gradient problem for large g value. Okay, it is problem here as here if the axis is x and y, if for example here x is going more high values, the y will be changing very slowly. Okay, and that is called vanishing gradient, and it is very much I mean bad in deep learning. Okay, so that's why vanishing gradient problem do exist in our sigmoid and our tan h function. Okay, now it is zero centered, so this one is wrong. Okay, because here sigmoid values lie between 0 to 1, so we could say it is that it is 1.5 centered. Okay, not 0 centered. Here we could tell that tan h is an 0 center as the values lies between -1 to 1. Okay, so here 0 lie in the center, but for sigmoid the 1.5 lies between the center. Okay, now here the here is that this sigmoid function is differentiable everywhere. It is fully correct since it is a continuous function from -infinity to infinity. It is continuous everywhere, so it is differentiable everywhere. Okay, now going to our third question here. Okay, it is asked that consider the network of 100 layers where each layer performs the following operation. Here it is saying that xt plus 1 step of x is using the ReLU activation function of -1 into x1. Okay, this one, question number 4. So it is asking that if you pass a scalar here which is x0 equals to 0.7 is fed to the network, what will be the output after 100 layers? Okay, so one thing you must have known here is that activation function of ReLU have the mathematical function as max, 0 and x. Okay, so it maximizes either 0 or the x, and it ignores negative value. Now when we are putting for x1, okay, here the ReLU, inside the ReLU will be multiplying -1 with our 0.7, and since the max here is 0 and it ignores the negative value, it will give 0. Okay, and it will be done for whole 100 times, and we will be getting 0 only. Okay, so 0 will be our final answer here. Okay, now the fifth question asked here is that what are the minimum and maximum possible values of the derivative of sigmoid? Okay, so here we have our sigmoid function is 1 by 1 plus e to the power minus x. Okay, when we will differentiate it, okay, so we have here minus x, this will be a function, so it will remain as it is. Then we will apply the chain rule and we will differentiate this here. Okay, and by chain rule we will be getting our final answer as this sigma x into 1 minus sigma x. Okay, so this will be our final output after differentiating our sigma. Okay, so here if we will take our sigma xx as y, we will getting a function named y into 1 minus y, okay, as the function which is nothing but our derivative of sigma, okay, and we have to find the minimum and maximum values for this value only, y minus y square, okay. So when we will make this into graph, we will find that it's an downward facing parabola, okay, and the maximum value occurs at the vertex at x equals to half, okay. So here in x equals to half, we will be getting our minimum value, that is our 0.25, okay. Here we put 1 by half inside our y and get the maximum value as our 0.25, okay. So here the x equals to half is we got by our geometry, okay. Now second is we have to find here minimum value, okay. Since it's a downward facing parabola, it will be going towards the infinity, okay, but the in machine learning the lowest we could get is 0, okay. So the minimum value will also be 0 only, okay. So finally our final value of the derivative of sigma will lie between 0 to 0.25, okay. This will be our answer. Now question number 6, okay. Here it is saying to consider a simple two-layer neural network, okay. So we have here two-layer neural network with our activation function, okay. So here it is saying that we send an input number x with our hidden layer which have one neuron with sigmoid activation, okay, one layer with our sigmoid activation, then an output layer with unknown activation function, and here the all weights equals to 1 and all bias equals to 0, okay. So here basically we have to find is that when x equals to 0 the final output is 0.5 and when x equals to 1 the final output is 0.731, okay. So here practically it is saying that when we send 0 here, okay, into our deep learning network, first we pass here 0 and then we pass here 1, it will give here the output 0.5 and 0.731, okay. So here but first and here we have to find here the unknown activation function here, okay. But before that here we have our input layer, okay. Here we have our hidden layer and we have to pass one neuron with our sigmoid activation, okay. So first we will be passing our 0 and 1 which we will be getting a 0.5 and 0.731, okay. After putting it inside our sigmoid function formula, okay, we get 0.5 and 0.31 after our hidden layer, okay. Now we have our output layer, okay. So basically here the values are counted for our hidden layer, okay. It is asking that output layer what will be our activation function. So here you will see that this will be exactly the same here, okay. And so what activation function we need to have the exact value after the output layer, okay. So it will be directly our identity activation function, okay. So basically it doesn't change the value of our x or our incoming tensor, okay, the identity activation function. So here technically our identity function will be our final answer. Okay, if we will check also for the sigmoid, if we are putting here 0.5 to get the answer, it will give us 0.622. okay, and it is not matching with our 0.5. For our tan h, we will be doing the same. We will putting 0.5 here and we will be getting 0.462, which is not equals to 0.5. okay, so that's why sigmoid and tan h cannot be the answer, and the option C is correct. okay, here once again you need to understand clearly is that the 0.5 and 0.731 we get from our hidden layer. okay, that's having sigmoid activation function, and that value we need to pass to an unknown activation function that will give our 0.5 and 0.731. okay, exact value, and that thing only linear or identity function only could give us. okay, and that's what we correct here. Now going to our 7th question. okay, here it is saying that we import an tensor here which is in value of 2. we make an y and cube it. okay, then we do an back propagation, and now it is asking to print the gradient of x. okay, so as you know from our tensors video about our gradient thing, once again I think I lose it. So here basically if when the y dot backward is called we basically differentiate the y with respect to our x. okay, so here y was x cube, so we differentiate it and we get our 3x square here, and here we will putting our x value here. okay, and by this we will be getting the gradient as 12 here. okay, it was done in our part A of our program. okay, so if you will going to here auto gradient, you will find the answers here. okay, it is also done the exactly the same way. okay, once the y dot backward is called, it will differentiate with respect to x and we will be getting this final value. okay, now going to our 8th question. okay, given the following Pythagoras code, here we have our shape as 3 by 1 and here we have shape as 3, 0. okay, and since both are not same, here the toss dot stack will not work. okay, due to our mismatch, so it will return an error here. okay, now going to our question 9. okay, here it is saying that consider the code, and what is the following code here. okay, so you will see that we have an epoch here with range from 0 to 100. okay, and we have here loader function which comes from data dot loader. okay, so as I have told you in our week 1, here practically we have here two types of here training part. okay, here you will see it clearly, then you will know that here this is an data loader type problem. okay, the training part. So here we will be getting in batches. okay, so here this will be our x and this will be our y in batches. okay, so here you must know that this is an example of a training in batches here. okay, we divide it into batches and then we are training here. Second concept is that you need to understand that for each inner loop, average gradient is calculated. Okay, so here for each loop inside it we are calculating average gradient, then doing the back propagation, then we are updating the steps. Okay, this is the concept. Now the first option it is asking is that option 1 is that the printed lost dot item is from last mini batch of each epoch. Okay, so here the lost dot item is from the last mini batch. Okay, it's true since after one epoch of the data loader we are basically averaging the loss. Okay, for our each mini batch here, so it is true. Then for our option 2 it is saying that we are what the option 2 is saying that we are, then if we forget our optimizer dot zero gradient, it can cause gradient to accumulate and training to diverge. Okay, it is practically to, as here it is told that if our optimizer dot gradient is missing, you will be basically accumulating the whole gradient here. Okay, and the deep learning can't learn our new gradient. Okay, so this is also correct. Then third is that if loss dot backward is called but optimizer dot step is not done, okay, the weight won't update. It is also true since our optimizer dot step only moves our weights. Okay, and it updates the model parameter. Okay, so here this is also saying the true here. Okay, now our last question, which is basically saying that we have an perceptron learning algorithm. Okay, and then it successfully converges to a solution. Okay, so here it is full question, but our main point is that we use an perceptron learning algorithm and that is successfully converged to a solution. Okay, so you must have learned from your MLT or your deep learning week 1 is that for our linear separable data, perceptron always converge. Okay, if you will change the perceptron, we will basically see that if the perceptron have successfully converged, okay, then it was a clearly separable data, and for a clearly separable data this function is always true. Okay, so we matrix multiply the weight in x here and we multiply the whole by y value and we always get the value more than 0. Okay, this came from MLT. Okay, so by this our week 1 practice assignment is completed. Okay, now we are into week 1 graded assignment. Going to our first question here is that you design a neural network without any activation function. Okay, this is the exact thing we done in our practice assignment 1. Okay, so we will do it very fast. The network reduces to a single linear transformation regardless of that. Okay, and it is fully correct. Okay, we have done it in our practice assignment question 1. Then second is that such a model cannot represent XOR function. This is also correct as there is no activation function, we can learn any non-linearity. Okay, and thus it can't never represent an XOR function. Second thing, third option here is that gradient descent will diverge in training. Okay, first thing is that gradient descent doesn't depend on the activation function or your neural network. Okay, basically it's basically and the direction of this steepest curve here. Okay, so for example, for a mountain climber, the gradient is in mountain. Okay, and the power depends on the climber. So no matter you add or remove activation function, it depends on the power, but for the gradient here, okay, it entirely depends on the data here. So no matter which layer, so no matter you use activation function or not, the gradient descent depend on the training data set. Okay, so it's false here. And the fourth option is that adding more layer improves representation power. Okay, so no matter how much layer you added without the activation function, you are actually not learning. Okay, that is the concept here, and it is also talked in our PA1. Okay, first question only. Second question, it is saying that consider a data set with the values. Okay, so first one is the first two is the position of the data. So 1 1 is our plus 1, minus 1 1 is our minus 1, then 1 minus 1 is our minus 1, and minus 1 is our plus 1. Okay, so here it is saying that first it is linearly separable or not. So you could clearly see this, that this is non-linear problem. Okay, we can just stretch a line and divide the whole blue and red on the either side. Okay, so this is clearly not an linearly separable data, thus the perceptron will never converge. Okay, so here it is saying that it will converge, which is wrong, and here it is saying that it will not converge, it is correct, and for the dataset represent an XOR pattern. Okay, it is also correct. Now we have here question 3, which is asked here that consider a neuron with input vector x1 x2 and weight vector y1 y2. Okay, and bias. Let the activation function be sigmoid. So first option is that it is saying that the function derivative is function into 1 minus function. Okay, so practically it is saying that y derivative equals to y 1 minus y. Okay, we had done this in our PA here. Okay, so like you will see here that we get the derivative as exactly the same here. Okay, so y equals to 1 minus y, and thus the first option is correct. Okay, here the first option is correct. Now this second, it is saying the exact same thing we done in our practice assignment. Okay, the maximum value of our derivative lies between 0 to 0.25. Okay, and for with that reason this is also correct. Now the gradient vanishes for large value of g. Okay, it is also correct, because that as we increase our x value here the y after a particular value increase very less compared to our x. Okay, and that is very dangerous for our deep learning. Okay, and thus we have our gradient vanishing problem in both our sigmoid and our tanh. Okay, you must remember this also. The tanh also have our vanishing gradient problem. Okay, so where here, okay, our sigmoid and tanh both have our vanishing gradient problem. Second is that it is independent of our bias. Okay, so let's, here it is the question. Okay, so here the first three options are correct. Okay, the last, it is saying that it is independent of bias. Okay, first thing is that activation function is not talking about here. It is basically talking about the gradient of the output. Okay, so here basically no output is independent of bias, as here it is said that the function is basically an linear function with an bias added. Okay, so here it will be dependent on our bias here. Okay, because that is the formula we defined here. Now we have our question 4. Given ReLU activation function which is fz equals to max 0 to z, which of the following are true? Okay, so if you know your ReLU function here, its formula is max 0 to x. Okay, and here the whole curve looks like a straight curve dot with 45-degree angle. Okay, so here the first thing it is asking that its derivative is 1 when z equals z more than 0 and 0 when z less than 0. Okay, so if the value is less than 0, there is no derivative, and thus this is practically correct. Okay, 0 when z is less than 0, and when it is more than 0, since it's making an 45-degree angle, as the value is max 0 to x. Okay, and it make an 45-degree angle, the derivative is equals to 1. Okay, so like you know the formula here is that tan equals to x by y. So here theta equals to tan inverse y by x, and here since it is x and y, here this space is equal, here the tan inverse 1 becomes 1 and the theta becomes here 0. Okay, so here the whole derivative is 1. Now the second, here it is saying that it avoids vanishing gradient in positive domain. Okay, so here we are only talking about positive domain here. Here you will see that the whole, for every value of x we are getting an y, and for large value of x the y is not basically contracting. Okay, so the second option is also correct. Okay, third, it is saying that it is differentiable everywhere including at z equals to 0. Okay, so here although the first thing is clear, okay, since this is an continuous graph here. Okay, so basically where is the question? The whole it is continuous, but here in x, here in our left side we are not getting any value. Okay, it is not defined here, and thus at 0 it is not differentiable. Okay, it is continuous here only from 0 to whole x and y axis, but in our negative domain it is practically not defined, and thus it is not differentiable. Okay, in our 0 value. Now fourth, it is saying that it induces sparsity in activation. Okay, so basically sparsity means that for some or many inputs the neuron output becomes exactly 0. Okay, so since here the max is 0 by 7, I mean max is 0 by z here, and we will be getting at least some 0 value if the tensor is negative. So here this one is also true. Okay, so you will see that the first 1, 2 and 4 is true here. Okay, Now coming to the fifth question here. Here it is saying that there's an data here that is perfectly linearly separable. Okay, so basically we could separate it very easily, and the perceptron has converged to a valid solution. That means the data is clearly separable into both sides. Okay, so here basically it is saying that what is the number of connected regions in our whole data set. Okay, so what is the meaning of connected region is that you can move continuously within the region without crossing the decision boundary. Okay, so here we could move here freely. Okay, and here and in this territory we could move here freely. Okay, so you will see that there's exactly two territory here that we could move freely. Okay, continuously, and the number of connected regions will be here in 2 here. Okay, that's the main concept here. If our data will be like this, like here it is clearly separable but it's like making like this, then here the connected region will be 3. Okay, so basically it depends on the border. Now question 6, it is saying that we have two input layer neural network with the following specification. Okay, first we have our hidden layer with our ReLU activation function, and then an output layer with our unknown activation function. Okay, here all Bayesian bias equals to 1 and bias equals to 0. Okay, now the network behaves like this. Here when we put x equals to 0, it is outputting 0 here, and for 2 here it is giving output as 2. Okay, so you know this that this could be only done by our linear activation function. Okay, this one, our linear activation function basically doesn't change the value, so this one is correct. Okay, now also about the ReLU activation function, since it only ignores our negative value and make it to 0 for positive value like 0 and 2, it will give us the number exactly the same here. Okay, so here if you putting 0, if here we have here ReLU, we will be getting 0 only, and for 2 we will be getting the same. Okay, and also here the basically the values are passed here after the ReLU only. Okay, so it is the direct copy, and the ReLU works entirely like the identity activation function, just that for negative value it turns it to 0. Okay, now for our sigmoid function, if you will be putting the 0 value here, we will be getting 0.5, which is not equals to 0 here. Okay, so that's why sigmoid can't be our unknown activation function. If you are putting 0 to our tan h, we are getting 0. Okay, but if you are putting our 2 here, we are getting value as 0.96. thus here only the unknown activation function are ReLU or our linear. Okay, now the 7th question is that consider the following architecture for a fully connected artificial neural network. So here it is saying that we have an incoming tensor here -6 2 1 -3 2, and we have here hidden layer. Okay, with our neural network, which is basically a linear neural network, and then our ReLU function. Okay, now it is saying that we have our weight is 1, weights are initialized to 1, and we have 10 neurons each. Okay, now basically it is saying that what will be the output of this neural network. Okay, so here the value we are getting. Okay, so since it's a linear function, the value we get by x into weight plus our bias. Okay, and that's what we are doing here. Okay, so we multiply each into 1 as here the all the weights are initialized to 1. So here the w is 1, and here our x values are matrix multiply, and we get -4 as the answer. And since we have activation function and it ignores the negative value here, we will be getting our 0 here for all the 10 values. Okay, here since our activation function is ignoring our negative value, we will be always be getting 0 here. Okay, so whole value becomes 0 after our hidden layer. Okay, now coming to the outer layer, here we get the value as 0 here. Now if we put into our sigmoid function, which is basically 1 by 1 plus e to the power minus x, we will be getting our value as 0.5. Okay, and that is our final answer for this. Now the question is, it is saying that we are training an artificial neural network for a regression task. Okay, so since it is a regression task, we will be using our basically, yes, it is asking about the loss function here. Okay, so for our regression tags, we have our MSME, MAE or our Haber loss. Okay, for our regression task, it is saying that we have here severe outliers here. Okay, severe outliers. So since we are having outliers, we will be using our Haber loss or our mean absolute error. Okay, that because they both are non-sensitive to outliers here, plus we are also desiring for a smooth convergence. Okay, for our smooth convergence and for non-sensitive to outlier, we always use our Haber loss. Okay, and that is the final answer here. Okay, in our week 1 we will be using our Haber loss. Then the question 9, it is saying that what will happen if the following code is executed. Okay, so our question 9, what is it saying, that we have here torch 1 and our torch 2, but here it is in our CUDA and this is by default in our CPU. Okay, the concept here working is that if one is in CUDA, you can do any operation with the tensor which are in CPU only. Okay, so here this will raise an error here. Okay, so here the option, this will cause a runtime error, is here true. Okay, then we have here in answer 10 is that we have an function here and we have to find the output here. First thing is that we toss.arrange. Okay, so basically what does the arrange do? It arranges 1 2 3 to our 12 numbers into an tensor and the reshape here. Okay, it will reshape it into 3 into 4 3 cross 4 matrix. Okay, and we will be getting this tensor here. Then finally we will do here slicing. Okay, so here basically we will be ignoring our first row here, okay, and we will be slicing to our last, okay. So here 1 to last, here this is 0 1 2, here we are slicing from 1 to 2 4 rows, and here it is saying that we are slicing from first to 3, okay. So here 0 1 2 3, so we'll be slicing from 0 1 2, okay. So here the final we will be getting is that 4 5 6 and 8 9 10, okay. And here finally we will be printing our 0 comma 2 value here. So here the our row 0 is this one, and the second column is this one, okay. So we will be getting here the value 6, okay. Now coming to our 11 question, okay. Here it is saying that first we have here x equals to 3, okay. Then we define y, which is equals to x into 2, okay. And here it is defined that y equals to square of 2, okay. So if we are putting here the value of x, we are getting 2x to the power of square, okay. Now if we will more like, we'll be taking 2 inside this, here the 2 square into x square, okay. So here 2 square is 4, we are getting as 4x square, okay. Now after we call here the j dot backward, we will be calculating gradient here, okay. So here we get value as 8x, I mean we are getting value as for 4x square for our z. We will be calculate the gradient with respect to x, and here the value we will be get is 8x here, okay. And since the value of x was 3, we will be doing 8 into 3 and finally getting the answer as 24 here, okay. Getting the value as 24 here. Now for our question 12, okay. Here it is saying that we have our PyTorch code with our 3 and 4, and then our second tensor is 4 comma 0, okay. Now we are multiplying it, and basically the question is saying that what will happen. Remember that in our matrix multiplication or the addition, I have told you that here basically the shape doesn't matter, and we could multiply it as in scalar here, okay, directly. Like we have here 3 cross 4 matrix, and we are multiplying with our a value here, okay. So here the whole tensor will be multiplied to each column here, okay, directly. So we will be getting our final answer in the shape of 3 comma 4, okay. So here it is said the exact same thing, okay. Here the tensor is automatically broadcasted to shape 3 and 4, as I have told you. Here it will be multiplied into both with the same shape, and each row each element wise multiplied with b, okay. So we multiply the whole row wise, okay. So here actually this is wrong here, wait 1 second. Here basically 4:0 look like this, okay, and we'll be multiplying it whole to our row wise, okay. So this will be multiplied with this, and then our third row, okay. And finally we will be getting the shape as 3:4. and here it is said the exact same thing. Okay, now for our mistake, first it is said that it raises a shape mismatch error because shape 3 and 4 are incompatible. Okay, so this is wrong. Shape only matters if the values are different. Okay, so for example, if here we will be having our 2 or our 3 or our 5 here, basically any value except 3 and 4 here the broadcasting will take place, and either the tensor will be multiplied row wise or our column wise. Okay, then second thing it is said here is that tensor B is broadcasted column wise to shape 3 and 1, and each column A is multiplied by scalar. Okay, this scalar is wrong here. Plus here it is saying that we will be column wise to shape 3:1. Okay, this one is also not correct, as here the shape will not change, and here also it is said the exact same thing is that C has shape 3:1, which is wrong. The final shape we will be getting is 3:4 only. Okay, now the final question, it is saying that we have here tensor. First in M1 we did is that take all the mean of the element. Okay, so we plus our 2 plus 4 plus 6 plus 1 plus 3 plus 5 by 6 here, and we are getting 3.5. okay, in our M1. Then in our M2 we are doing it column wise. Okay, so we average both two values here and we get this final matrix. Then in V1 we are meaning these two. Okay, so we are averaging these three values too, and the finally we will be getting is 3.5 only. Okay, and here also we done the exact same thing. We do it row wise. Okay, so we average the whole 3 numbers here for our whole rows and get 4 by 3, and then we are also doing mean to our this value, and the final we are getting is 3.5. okay, so here basically it is asking that M1 equals to V1 equals to V2 will be our correct answer. Okay, other three are wrong here. So that's all for today. I hope you learned something from my video. So thank you and bye bye.